Thank you so much for joining us. For those of you that are physically present with us today, muchas gracias. Thank you for being here. And to those of you that are joining us online, we are so excited that you could join us as part of this diverse career week that's being hosted by the Career Center in co-sponsorship with a lot of departments on our campus, including the Chicanx Latinx Student Success Center, which I'm the program director. Everyone, if you don't know me, I'm Lily Pinedo Cantai, and my pronouns are she and her, and just really excited to be able to be in this shared space, being in community with some of our fabulous panelists this afternoon who are also alumni of San Jose State. So I'm gonna welcome our moderator, who's also a student success leader with the Central, and she will be asking our panelists a series of questions, and we will wrap up at the end with some Q&A for our guests in the audience today, both here in person and also online to ask, and we'll end with the lightning round. So is everybody ready? Yeah. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Alex to introduce herself, and I think we also have one more student and then that's going to be joining us as a student moderator, so I'll have them introduce themselves first, and then we'll go into our panel introduction. So thank you everyone for being with us today.
Hi everyone, I'm Alex. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a third year business marketing student, and some fun facts about me: I'm a student success leader at the Centro or the Chicanx Latinx Student Success Center. I'm also an entrepreneur, founder of Alexa's Delight, where I sell Peruvian pastries. I'm currently doing vice president of corporate relations for the Latino Business Student Association. So I collaborate with different organizations to create really great workshops. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. Also for you. And yeah, I'm happy to be here.
I am my pronouns are she, her, ella. I am a fourth year student majoring in psychology with a minor in Hispanic studies and public health. And I am currently also a student success leader at Centro. And I am also treasurer for Latinx Institute. It is a Latinx club, social club where we do a lot of social activities to talk about issues that are affecting our community. And
now we're going to be introducing our panelists. Yeah, you're just going down the line. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, my name is Erika Sanaí Cortez. We're just talking about how Mexican parents love to give us two names. My pronouns are she, her, and my current work title, I am a licensed clinical social worker, which sometimes I find very hard to believe. I'm currently working for Kaiser Permanente as an adult psychiatric therapist. But I'm also in transition to leave Kaiser and work for the Hollister School District as a mental health therapist. I'm really looking forward to this transition, as I will also be closer to home. A little bit about myself. I don't do as many extracurricular activities as you do, but very impressive. Right now I am raising two children. I have a 5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. To be proud little Latinas as well, and learn and teach them how to advocate for themselves. And sometimes it's hard. So that's a little bit about myself.
Now, I don't know how to do this, the little mic. Hi everyone, I'm Latinx Jasmine. My Honduran parents also gave me two names, and I own it. I'm Latinx Jasmine. My pronouns are she, her, ella, and I do two jobs right now. I work at LinkedIn as an event project manager on the emerging talent team, which I work a lot with young people and moving into tech. And I also am my entrepreneur. I am the host and creator of Hello Latino podcast, and it's all about amplifying our voices, our first generation immigrant voices, and stuff like that. And I've been doing my podcast for 2 years. I've been at LinkedIn for about a year and 2 months now. And I enjoy, what do I enjoy the most about my career? It's really just living in alignment with my purpose. And I think it's, I've worked hard to get here, and I'm here.
Cortez. My pronouns are she, her, ella. I have my own business. I have my business called Christina Alita Social Media. And what I do is I help amplify the voices of women of color who are business owners, content creators, or micro influencers, and really help them with content creation, branding themselves, marketing for businesses, and getting their mission out there so that people know what they're doing, you know, their mission, why they're doing it, and everything that's going on. So that is what I do. I've been doing this for about a year now. Before that, I had another business and I worked in tech before that, and I think we'll get into that in the questions. And what I enjoy the most about my career, about my business, is I would say just waking up every day and knowing that I can make a difference in the world and that I get to amplify powerful voices, and I meet so many amazing women and I get to help them reach the people that they want to reach. And that's very exciting. It's very creative. It's business oriented, which I love, and I love being my own boss and getting to do what I want to do.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Joaquin Portugal, Director of San Jose State. For most of the panel here. So my pronoun, he, him, them.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. My work title. So I'm the Vice President of Financial Plan Analysis at a software company in the Bay Area, Sumo Logic. They do observability, security analytics. So been there for about 3 years. Went through an IPO about 2 years ago. So I've spent most of my career in finance at various companies. What I really enjoy about my work is just being able to do something different every day, help a company through its challenges, its organization, and really drive success in the organization. Beyond that, I'm also a board member of Allen Rock Counseling Center. I'm treasurer there. I've been on that organization for a number of years. So although I get to spend my time a day doing kind of finance-related things, I also get to help organizations that help our community, which sounds like most of the here does a lot of great work. So that's how I think about spending my time in the career, but also being able to give back and help others. So what do I most enjoy? I think I talked about that, right? So just really being able to help organizations, being able to share my journey, as well as to be able to help the younger generation as they start and embark on their journeys.
And my name is Ben Silva, also part of the Two Last Name Club. My pronouns are she, her, ella, and my current title is Global Demand Generation. Basically, that's fun words to say. I'm leading a marketing team working on global campaigns. I'm really fortunate I get to lead about 7 folks. Working at a business-to-business software company. Over the last few years, I've really found that I love working in the software world, and so really excited to get an opportunity to get to chat with all of you about that. I have been in this specific role just a few months. This is actually my 3rd pandemic role, so there's been quite a few shuffling around. So lots of fun learnings, and again, lots to say on what it is, like what I look for in an opportunity when you're moving from one role to another. But I think ultimately my favorite part of my job is really the people management. I think mentorship was always a big part of what I enjoyed, whether it was while I was in a state, working on different organizations, whether it was kind of part of the Latino alumni network for the alumni group for San Jose State alumni. And so that mentorship piece is something that I've really been able to take role after role, and really right now is just getting to coach, mentor a team to really drive business impact. So that's my favorite part for sure.
By the way, we call this and empowerment.
I love that. Yes.
Thank you for the introductions. I heard a lot of common themes, like living with alignment with your values and inspiring others, and like how to succeed in this new realm, this new era. So I want to ask the first question. For the first generation students, did you feel the first generation continuum in your workplace? And what the first generation continuum is, it's after you graduate college, that feeling when you enter your new workplace, you know, feeling lost, not knowing how to navigate the space or your role. Yeah, what I know.
So I think definitely, I think I felt it more when I went into the workforce than actually being a student at San Jose State. San Jose State did a marvelous job in keeping it very diverse. We live in a community that we have access to that. So when I was going to school, I never felt it. There was a lot of Latinos that were part of the social work program during the undergrad and the graduate program. It wasn't until I started my internships that I started to realize, holy smokes, I am a 0.01%er out there. And that's when I started to realize I don't have anyone out here to support me during my sort of navigation phase of what my world is going to look like once I'm in my career. And so a lot of times I had to fake it until I made it. And internally, there was a lot of anxiety that there wasn't this representation that I thought existed. I grew up in the east side of San Jose where there's a big population of Latinos. And even my transition to San Jose City, then here, didn't faze me. And it wasn't until I was out in the world. So once I graduated and started to look into the workforce, I quickly continued to realize there aren't a lot of Latinos and Latinas out there that are in our city of San Jose working in my degree, and we do really need that. So yes, definitely felt it. I just tried to get connected with my colleagues who were also in that same situation, feeling the same way, because unfortunately, if I tried to explain it to my parents, they didn't get it. They just didn't understand it. And my husband was also first generation. So together we did, support one another. But once you're out there, yes, you do feel that anxiety, but it's okay. Be proud that you are first generation. Be proud that you made it and you deserve to be there. So you will feel it. But with time, it gets easier and you get to be more confident that, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and you enjoy your role.
Yeah, when I think about, I saw the question today, first generation for myself, and it's difficult, right? Because when I think about growing up, my parents didn't go to college, immigrated from Mexico, my mom from Mexico City. My dad grew up poor, kind of supporting the family. And although my parents always instilled the kind of importance of education, they didn't have the experiences or the knowledge of what does it mean to apply to college? What does it mean to go to college, right? What are the resources available as a student or a potential student, as an individual trying to think about their education and how do you get ahead in life? All of that, you think about as a first gen, you don't have that background. You don't have someone at home telling you, this is the things that you should be doing. Taking the pre-SAT test, thinking about, essay writing. And when you get into the workforce as well, right? So I went to San Jose State, I graduated, I surrounded myself by a lot of the organizations that are still on campus today. LBSA, I joined a fraternity. It was an educational-based fraternity, so focused on the education and the networking, and just making sure that I surrounded myself by individuals that had the same common themes and knowledge or kind of expectations out of my future of what I wanted out of life, even though I didn't have the background and kind of the people closest to me that could help me. So one of the things that I really felt was important was to understand and surround yourself by people that have common kind of goals, and really help each other. I remember being on campus and being with my fraternity brothers, and I would joke with my family like, "Oh, you're after party?" No, we're after at the library study. Our rush week was at the library study and making sure that we kind of get ahead. and really just taking advantage of the different opportunities that's on campus to get you involved, the mentorships, the internships. When I went into, my first job, actually was working at the time when I was going to San Jose State. So I was working for a software company, and for me, it was really around how do I support myself and go to college and give myself the opportunity to learn as much as possible. But what I also did was making sure as I went and built my career, built the experience that I had, is thinking through how can I bring the networking opportunities, the leverage the people that I have worked with and connected with at school, and being able to think through how do I make those connections that may not be needed today, but sometime in the future, because it's important to build those relationships now and build those relationships for what you need in the future. The other thing I did was became really active in the companies I worked on with the ERG groups. So it was participating in the different like Latinos Connect, the different ERG groups, and making sure that I had a community that was very similar to my background, but also understanding that that doesn't define who I am in the business. So I can be connected, but I don't have to let that hold myself back or think through that, like, because I'm a first gen or because I don't have those easy access to information, that it should hold me back. So, making sure I stay connected with ERG groups, building those communities, and just making sure that you leverage the tools that you have inside of school, outside of school, your professors. It's something that it's interesting when I reflect back, is I didn't have that at home, but you have to find it one way or the other, and there's lots of resources out there to find that community or those resources to help you get ahead.
Thank you for sharing. Definitely, I agree. Surrounding myself with individuals who are connected and driven has definitely helped me as a first generation student myself. So thank you for sharing your experiences. So the next question is, have you ever felt imposter syndrome, the psychological belief that you do not belong or have doubt in your abilities/skills in school or at work? And if so, how did you overcome that? Jasmine, would you like to share?
Oh my goodness, so many things. I feel like imposter syndrome hit me actually in high school. I grew up in Southeast San Diego. Here. And if you know anything about Southeast San Diego, it's a very Latino, immigrant, Black and brown community, very poor. I went to one of the most poorly funded schools in Southeast, and I had no idea. It was just normal to have textbooks that were ripped up and held together with duct tape. That was totally normal. And students that didn't cut right, all of that. And then I moved. There was a moment in my life in 2008. I remember what happened in 2008. A lot of immigrants were affected. My family was one of them. We were living on the streets for about 6 to 8 months. And after that, we went to this town in San Diego called Mesa, right next to San Diego State, middle class area. And I went to school for the first time in a place that felt like I was in a movie. I was seeing believers for the first time. I'm like, oh my God. It's like Troy and Gabriella. And I'm being really honest with y'all. But I felt for that moment that I felt kind of different. I was no longer going to a school where we were speaking Spanglish left and right. I was not going to a school where I was seeing a lot more people that did not look like me and did not have the same experience. That's where I felt imposter syndrome, but I didn't know how to name it at the time. I was in school and I failed my first class freshman year. I went from being the smartest kid in Southeast to now I'm failing in biology, and my parents still don't know, so don't tell them. But I failed my first class, and I remember thinking, I'm not smart enough to be here. I don't belong here. Again, I didn't have the language for imposter syndrome, but I knew intrinsically that I didn't belong. And it wasn't until I got to college where I felt like now I was seeing people, I was seeing Latinos again. I'm like, okay, this is what's up. Like, I'm trying to see Latinos left and right. And I feel like things started to flip for me. I started to learn what imposter syndrome was. And I'm like, oh no, I know I have the skills to be here. I know I've worked my butt off to be here. I know my parents sacrificed and immigrated over here for a reason. So no, I don't feel like I don't have the skills and ability to be here. But I think society tries to make us feel like we don't. And so I feel like it's taken me a while, but I've been able to overcome imposter syndrome by just believing in myself and and by knowing deep down that I have skills that are maybe even more valuable than so many of the people I work with. I own being first gen. I'm first gen everything. I'm first gen tech, I'm first gen Latina, I'm first gen American, I'm first gen everything. And the beauty in that is that I know what it's like to come from nothing. I know what it's like to build something with low resources. You know how many times at work I've heard we don't have enough budget for that, and I'm like, don't worry, I'll make it happen, because that's what we do.
Yeah.
And I think I've leveraged so many of what first generation life taught me, and I'm one of the highest performers on my team, along with other folks who are first gen, and we all look at ourselves and I'm like, it's because we grew up the way we grew up. And that's a beautiful thing that I feel like society tries to make us feel like, nah, you don't belong here. And then we're like, oh, we're gonna take over and we're gonna make this 10 times better and we're gonna save so much money. But I think that's how I've kind of navigated imposter syndrome. And I just encourage everybody here who feels like they don't belong to remember who you are, where you come from, what you come from. It's excellence. And we have so much beauty in our cultura and who we are. And I feel like that resilience that our parents had, to the fearlessness, right, to move to a country that they don't know the language, don't know how to navigate this world, and they did it. That generational power is in us too, and we're going to continue moving to these spaces where we're not, comfortable with or moving for the first time, but we're going to know that we belong here because look at what we come from. So that's my wish.
Spending money in Zoom here. Yes, I feel imposter syndrome. I have always felt imposter syndrome. I probably always will. To your point, I think the first time that I knew that I didn't know it was imposter syndrome, but I felt it at a young age. My dad would always tell me, because you're Latina, you have to work 10 times harder than everybody else. And so everything that I did, it kind of made me like in this achievement trap of just, I have to achieve from a very young age, doing gymnastics, competing internationally, and all kinds of different things growing up. And so that kind of just made me work harder. But then you get to a certain point, kind of like your example of changing high schools, I got to a certain point where I realized, oh, I am different than other people. I definitely noticed that here at San Jose State. Even I was a part of Latino Business Student Association too, and being in business settings, I noticed one time we did and it's not like bad on anybody, but we went to a company tour, and I was so excited. I remember all the experiences I had at San Jose State. I did every experience you could possibly do because I wanted to be around people that would help me go to the next level. And we went to an accounting company, and there was male identifying students, female identifying students, and then we get to the room where we're meeting with the professionals there, and they shook all the hands of the men students, and they didn't shake my hand. And I've had that experience, my whole life. That was just one where I really remembered it, and where I felt like that should not have happened. So yeah, definitely saw it at San Jose State. Definitely. After I left San Jose State, I got a job in tech. I was doing marketing, and there I felt it too. I was in the HR team. I was doing marketing, but I sat within the HR team, and I was in the most. HR is usually the most diverse group in the company, and so kind of felt it less, but you see it, and so I've always kind of clung to the people that felt like home, or the people that felt safe in whatever community that I was in. And I just try to take mentors, and I feel like I always latch on to the older people that are like, here, come under my wing, I will help you. And that's always really helped me. And so I would say that that was one way that I overcame it. But I would say that a mission for me, and as hard as this is, and as scary as it is, I try to pioneer and put myself in positions where it is very uncomfortable, and where it's the dichotomy of recognizing that, the oppression that we face, that historically we have faced, but yet at the echo. Oh, sorry. you recognize that the outside forces that maybe are not there to support you, but then at the same time, intrinsically and internally, I always knew, like you said, we gonna take over. I knew, I was like, we're gonna do what we need to do. I'm gonna figure it out. And I think the thing that dictates your success, aside from emotional intelligence, is not the resources that you've been given. It's how resourceful you are, what you can find. And so that's kind of like how I overcame it, is just finding new ways, thinking creatively. When I was a student, I would come to so many of these events like this, and shout out to all the students that are here in the room and on Zoom. Well, not everyone has the privilege to be here, I would say, but there's other people that wouldn't take the time to be here. And so shout out to you for, learning. And I think just stay in these environments on campus, when you leave campus, outside of campus, have a life outside of your job and outside of your family. Yes, stay. I don't think, yeah. You know.
For sharing. I kind of needed that, not gonna lie. Very like pessimistic when we do like first round, like, oh, I can't, like I don't have that support, but it's like, what Abby said, you have to kind of carry that with pride as well. Like, yeah, first round, I'm gonna find a way to do it. So thank you all for sharing. And so our next question is, how did your experiences at SGC help you navigate your career now?
That's actually a really good segue into what can you do on campus. How did my experience on campus sort of shape where I am today? It's so funny, so I graduated in class of 2017. It both feels like it's been much longer than 5 years, but also it's been 5 years. You kind of look back and you start kind of really dissecting, like, what were those key moments in my college experience that opened doors, shaped paths, and kind of led me to where I think I've really found this sweet spot in my career that I love. A big piece of this was just, I think, to like a lot of our points, like taking advantage of these opportunities on campus. I was actually a transfer student. I wasn't at San Jose State all 4 years. I had a very interesting college journey. I started at Santa Clara. That was really expensive. So then I went to community college because I was like, I'm pretty much done with a lot of my general credits. Let me just get this out of the way. And then I actually ended up, back at San Jose State for only 2 years, which is another crazy thing to think about 5 years later. But in those 2 years, I was determined to absorb as much of the college experience as I could. So that meant getting involved with the Marketing Association, getting involved with the Latino Business Student Association. In my last year, myself, Christina, and a few other women on campus, we co-founded the Women in Business organization at San Jose State. So it's something that we're super proud of, that we want to continue seeing that presence grow on campus, because where we still felt at the time, and not sure as much how I mean, I've seen it grown a lot from the outside, but even kind of coming into the workforce, you still see how important it is to keep bringing each other up, bringing women as Latinas, as minorities, as underrepresented minorities. As you get closer to these like middle management and above, you start really seeing where it was valuable, where that mentorship comes into play. When I talk from my experiences of being involved in organizations at San Jose State, like now I'm just like, the passion for wanting to bring people with me is there, and I think I attribute a lot of that to my involvement with many of these organizations. I was always the first to think about what can we do beyond the classroom? What can we do beyond the courses I was taking? I graduated in marketing, so you know, it was even things like being a part of this Bona Honors program as well, which gave me an opportunity to really experience, working for big corporation. But I think for me, any college student I ever talked to is just about reaching for those opportunities, embracing them as for what they are. At the time, it seems like, why are you attending your 5th, 6th resume workshop semester after semester? And it's just like, I know how to put together a really good resume now. Like that, like I stand by that. Like there are things that you just, you know, really take a few times to get that nail, but you have to be open you have to be open to it and really wanting to take it as learning. So that is my spiel on what San Jose State is for me. You know, I'm so thankful.
And just kind of to piggyback on what you were saying, but it's true. I feel like sometimes because I grew up in San Jose State was underrated. What they offer as a CSU career choice. So for me, what was amazing is I was given the opportunity to be part of these amazing internships that really sort of molded what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to help people. I was like, how can I help people and get paid? And that's how I got into social work. And so from there, during the undergrad and graduate, we were required to see internships every year. And we have amazing internship opportunities. We were given access to school districts, to high school. If you wanted to become a counselor in the school setting, you could get your PPSC and do that. I chose the medical social work route. I was given the opportunity to be an intern at Lucille Packard's Children's Hospital, which is amazing. I worked in the nephrology department. These are kids that are awaiting transplant. So I got to work with people from all over the nation pretty much. So if I would have not been here, I wouldn't have those skills that needed to be refined in working with professionals in vivo. I got an opportunity to work with the best doctors, with the best social workers, the best nurses, and can't take that away from me. And I've been able to transition those skills wherever I go. I still am who I am, but then I've added these values and skills that I truly needed to be a better version of myself to be out there in my profession. So that's one thing I am forever grateful to San Jose State. All of our professors were experienced social workers themselves. And I have some professors that were great to sticking to the book and lecture and all that stuff, and I appreciate that because we need that. But then there were all other professors that were like, look, this is what it's going to be like. I'm going to keep it real with you, and this is what it's going to be like. So having that balance and having that here, I haven't been able to learn that anywhere else. So I am really grateful for that. And I also came from a community college from San Jose City. I never got that at San Jose City, and I really obtained that here. And I couldn't do much when I was doing the master's program because I had a mini mortgage and I had a husband, and so I couldn't do anything extra. But what I did have, oh man, it was good enough with my professors and my cohort of other colleagues that were in my classes. So I'm grateful for that for sure.
Thank you for sharing. Definitely lots of opportunities here at San Jose State. Kind of like you said, if you're a San Jose native, I've definitely heard. Didn't think I was gonna come to school, like it's San Jose State, yeah. But I think, like you said, there are so many opportunities here in County, and even if people have this narrative of it's very techy, it's not, it's just business world, but there's like a wide variety of you who have stepped into so many roles, so very inspiring, like, you know, also to recognize that your majors and everything you have heard so many interests of y'all, you know. Yeah, so thank you for sharing. The next question is, how valuable has networking been for you in discovering your interests, your career, and your hobbies?
So when I think about networking, think about networking. So when I think about, where you're at today and San Jose State, you guys mentioned a couple of things about like the honors program and some of these others. I still have, I'm a little bit later in my career and my journey, but I've hosted a number of students and projects on honors programs. I've hosted a number of, mentorship to students at San Jose State. And it's surprising the number of students that actually will reach out after their years. And it's great to see some of them reach out. Not all of them do. And when I think about like what opportunities you guys have as students, there's so many opportunities here to create those networking opportunities. And the thing is, a lot of times you're doing the networking not out of like a particular need at the moment, but it's building those relationships and those connections for the future, right? Because it's too late if you're trying to build a relationship or a network when you absolutely need it. Because you have to build it before you need it. And that's true for early career, someone that's still in school, someone like myself, and the professional workplace. Like if I'm working with another leader at my organization, or I still do a lot of networking peers across different organizations outside of my company. If I'm building that relationship and asking them for a question now, it's not going to go as well as if I really have a relationship with that person. So when I think about my own journey, it's really around making sure that you're building those connections early, taking advantage of every opportunity you have to build your network of people. So there's two schools of thought, right? One is you build this network of people that you know, and that you create relationships kind of on a, I don't want to say like an ongoing basis, but you keep these relationships warm. The other thing is around building your own kind of board of directors, if you will, or your own organization, right? You think about, as a person, as you grow your career, you want to have your own board of directors that you can go to, building and foster these relationships really strongly, so that as you go and grow in your career, that you have these network of people that you're really close to, that when you can go and sound off ideas, you can go and build yourself up and identify kind of weaknesses and get true feedback. Those are the types of people that you want to make sure you create strong relationships with, in addition to the networks at large, right? When I think about like where I'm at in the last probably 5 to 10 years of my journey in my career, I've not applied. Sorry, I don't know listening. So I don't really apply like the last people that had not apply for a role, right? It's about the networking, and it's saying, hey, there's a role that I like, or someone comes and asks you, like, hey, there's this role that's available, and we've thought about it. So you're going to get to the point in your career, and it's not now, but later on in life, where if you do this correctly, you build your board of directors, you build your network in a way that you will eventually be able to create those relationships in a way where you don't have to apply for a role, but you're actually constantly networking in a way where it's not once in a while thought, but you're constantly understanding what's out there, what for your availabilities out there for yourself, and obviously for others as well. So I keep this in mind as well as when I'm thinking about hiring. And so who are the people that are reached out to me? Who are the folks that one of the honors programs students from probably like 15 years ago. So I actually put her in contact with a role for the company I was at probably 3 or 4 years ago. And just because she still made the connections, she still reached out, and I had other connections, like she was able to get a role with someone that I hadn't worked with in years. So when I think about how it's important for all of us to build those connections, build that network, kind of that, I don't know, when I think about those two types of roles, if you will, in terms of the network. It also helps, I've created really strong friendships with folks that in some of the different events I've gone to. As part of the Hispanic Foundation Leadership Academy, built really strong relationships there. And then even some of the LBSA and some of the other connections where we've had, where we come in, we bring students into the organization. But I also get to meet a lot of people, right? And those are the relationships that are really important. So I guess the big takeaway for me is it's been really helpful for me. I think that's where I've been able to succeed and build my career. But also it's important to make sure that I take my skills back, build.
I would say on the topic of networking, I think networking is the most important thing that I did at San Jose State and the most important thing you can do at San Jose State. You know, if you're looking for jobs or you're starting a business or whatever the case may be, they're not gonna say, okay, do you know how to solve, I don't know, some math problem, I don't know. Something that you learn in class, right? It's more so the soft skills that you're learning, but with networking, I would say things that have helped me with networking, sometimes being shy or going to but being an introvert or going to events by myself, I would say complimenting people. Complimenting people is a great way to break the ice. It's genuine, obviously, but you know, getting to know people that way. And I would say that the steps to being a good networker is being curious and asking really good questions about other people. And it's being interested in people and, you know, what about that do you like? Or what was that like when you started doing that job or that experience? And asking them other things outside of work or outside of school. You'd be surprised, you know, people just want to relax and people genuinely just want to connect. And being a good listener, like remembering that. So if you follow up with them, you can ask them, oh, well, it was, you know, or say it was so great that we got to chat about XYZ. And then the other thing too, kind of like what you were saying, is that they say that the best time to interview for jobs is when you're not looking for a job and you kind of just see, you know, what salary ranges are out there, what kinds of opportunities are out there. I would say the same thing with networking. I could say personally, when I first started networking, again, my family didn't understand what I was doing on campus. They didn't understand what my school life was like. And so I didn't have any kind of mentorship in being a professional or being in these career settings. And so I was kind of like weird and, you know, I would go and I was almost a little desperate too. Like, and that's, you know, a mistake you can learn from me is that I would go and, you know, I would see, oh, this club is having this event and there's a speaker from Google and a speaker from LinkedIn and I'm gonna go and probably they'll offer me an internship and that's not really how it goes. And I learned that quickly. And so, yeah, I would say just continuously building your network of people. And what I would say too is that extracurricular opportunities, I kind of network wherever I go. You know, if I'm at a 49ers game and you're sitting next to someone and then you're talking and you're like, oh, wow, you do that? That's so interesting. And let's get it, you know, I always get their contact. You always got to get their contact information. That's a tip, you know, and get their information so that you can follow up. Because if they get your information, they might not reach out to you. So you want to get their information and then you can follow up and you never know what's going to come of that. Networking has helped me with my career, with hobbies, and networking is like branding yourself. So I would say, you know, for all of you that are attending, whether on Zoom or in person, showing people that you're doing all these things because it's a brave thing to be doing this and to be bettering yourself and learning new things. That says a lot about you. The places you go and the places you don't go say a lot about you. And so showing people you know, your resume says a lot about you, but you know, your LinkedIn or your social media, you have the opportunity to brand yourself and say, hey, this is the kind of person that I am. And so that's what I did during college. I only had one internship, but I was, you know, branding all throughout. So you can always tell people, you know, the events that you're attending. If you talk about even this event, I would say share your key takeaway, share what you learned, share how you're going to apply it. That adds value to other people. And eventually they'll see you and they're like, wow, you seem like you're really business oriented. And then they want to, you know, offer you opportunities. So you never know what's going to come from that, and just curate your brand and curate your narrative and tell people what you're about.
I know I'm not supposed to answer this, but I work at LinkedIn and I would be doing LinkedIn a disservice if I talk about this. But I want to give you 3 tips because I'm gonna be really real with y'all. I hate networking. How many of y'all do you like networking? You can be real with me. Yeah. I never liked networking. I still don't like it, and I don't call it networking. I call it relationship building. And I know that's my reframe on it, but I'm gonna give you 3 tips on how to network because I do this for a living. But I started to rethink of networking as more so, I just want to ask for direction. That's it, right? Like if you go up to someone, you're in a corporate building, and you're like, hey, do you know where the bathroom is? And you're like, oh yeah, take, go to the left, blah, blah, blah. But if I go up to you and I'm like, hey, do you have a job for me? Can you hire me? It's probably not gonna work out. So as a student, you have such an amazing privilege to ask for direction because you're new in your career. Start reaching out to people on LinkedIn and ask them, hey, can we do a little coffee chat? The worst thing that can happen is they ghost you and they say no, and so you move on. It's like dating. And so you literally start doing this over and over again as professionals you want to learn from, you want to talk to, ask for direction. You're young in your career, ask them, how did you get to where you are? And I'll tell you, the number one thing people love doing is talking about themselves. Yeah. So ask them, how did you get to where you are? And they're going to be like, oh, you want to learn from me? Let me tell you, right? And you'll be so surprised how often people actually want to help you. And network with each other, because all the people that I ended up working with and that I ended up going to school with, included, ended up helping me in small ways in my careers. And every single job, opportunity, speaking engagement, everything I've ever done has been through someone I know. I've never had any luck sending my resume out to a million different places. It's never worked for me. Referrals have helped me. So reach out to these people, build relationships, and events like these connect with all of us on LinkedIn. And make sure you follow up and you're like, hey, I saw you at this event, would love to stay in touch. And keep in contact. That's it. That's my little shoot.
Add to that. Don't just add LinkedIn, people and friends, write a message, be thoughtful. If I get a message, I'm gonna be more inclined to accept it. If I get someone that adds me without a context around it, I'm gonna ignore it.
Yeah, 100%. I know, I feel like we all have something to say on this, but as a person that's on the other side of like answering people, like I'm answering students, answering people that are curious about their careers, like also be prepared, have questions for them. I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations with students and they're kind of just like, okay, like they got the first part, they got the meeting scheduled, but now it's, lose that time. Other folks, like, it's really valuable time that they want to make that space for you. I really love how you bring that, ask for direction. And trust me, yeah, 100% guilty. We'll talk about how I got here and open book. Yeah.
I was just telling Judy about that. So the thing is even if you meet someone at your work, please leave in good terms. Because you never know. You never know when you're gonna run into this person again in your workplace. You never know when an opportunity can come up with this individual into a place that you really want, and this is your connection to get in. I mean, I've been doing this for 12 years, and someone that I met in the beginning of my career, back in like 2011, just came back into my life and said, hey, you want to shop in the field of the school district? And I said, yes. And so it's definitely keep that, even though it doesn't feel great, just be professional. Be a professional at the end of the day. And that goes very far. People remember that even though it could have been some morale issues, you continue to be a professional. And that's what's really important, because at the end of the day, it's you yourself that you're carrying. You're the one that's going to go to the next job. So just, be a professional. And if you need to see a therapist, talk to a therapist. And moving forward.
Sorry.
You as someone that struggles with connections with people, that was really helpful. Now going on to our next question. As a Latinx employee, how has your culture played a role in your career choice? Do you feel being in the workplace?
I was looking at her like, about this like smart idea to do this. Y'all are catching me at a time where I feel I'm so loud already. I am at a point in my life where I'm like, you either like me or you don't, and I will rep my Latinidad left and right. And I'm wearing my own Buddha's necklace right now, so people know this is who I am. And I was not always like that. So I'm gonna speak from like early career me. I went into the workplace and I'm from Southeast, right? And I'm Latina, so I love my long nails. Don't judge me now. I'm taking a break. But I love my long nails. I love my hoops. I love my red lipstick. That's who I am. And I remember going into my first job post college, and same thing. That's when I was like, ooh, I am the 0.01%. And I remember two things happened at that job. One, I was asked to cover up my curves because I was dressed a little too much, and I'm like, I'm just curvy. That's just how my body is. I can't change it. And I went for a while though. I never pushed back. I was like, okay, I'll wear cardigans, I'll wear blazers, I'll wear all of that to cover up, the curves. And the second thing that happened was I overheard a conversation, two women, I won't disclose who they were, but two women talking about, oh my God, there was this girl at the restaurant that we went to, she couldn't even type with her long nails. I don't understand why people get the long nails. It's so disgusting. And like a VP was talking about nails at the time with my cardigan and everything. I'm with my long nails and I'm looking at them, and that was the first moment I felt like I needed to hide who I was to be in the workplace. And early in my career, that's so detrimental to who I am, because I started to change who I was. I started to get shorter nails, which were not a vibe. I started to cover up my body, and I started to feel like I had to hide more and more of who I was. I had to study this like American culture because I'm like, y'all don't want to hear about my novelas? Okay, well, let's talk about, I can't even name anything now. I had to learn this language, and I felt like it was not me. And I got to a point where I left my job during the pandemic, and I started, I left that first job with the nails and cardigan because I was like, this is not where I want to work. Ended up working for a small business that I adored. It was a woman-owned business. I had so much fun. They saw me. They didn't really know a lot about Latin culture, so I was the only Latina that kept asking me a lot of questions. But then now I work at LinkedIn, and I feel like in that transition period, it was a moment for me, shout out to therapy and all this inner work. I started to really own my identity and where I come from, and realizing that if a company is asking you to hide parts of yourself, they're saying your nails are too long or your body's too curvy, that's not where you belong. And it's hard because for me, I take care of my parents financially, and that's a big burden that I've always had. And now I see it as an opportunity more, and realizing that stepping away from a job has bigger effects than me not having money. It means my family won't get as much money this time. But believing in myself so much that I stepped away from that job, and I was like, I know I will get something. Power of networking. I left that first job, took the train down from San Francisco to Redwood City for a networking event, and I met my former boss there. Yeah, I went with Christina. We were both out there. And I met my former boss there, and I told her, hey, I'm looking for a job, so if you know of anything. And she was like, I'm actually hiring, like, you should come, like, apply. And I got hired, and I worked with her for like 2.5 years, 3 years. And I stepped away from that job, knowing that I will go into another place and I will find a company that sees me and values me. And it wasn't easy. It was 8 months. 30 different interviews, 13 different companies. The girl was exhausted, but I got to an interview and I was like, you know what? They're either gonna love me or hate me. I just need a job, right? And I went into this interview with LinkedIn, and they loved me, and I got hired within a week. And I say that story to tell you that there's power in being who you are and walking into every space knowing I am fellow Latina, and this is what you're gonna get. And you're still going to get the talent because your professionalism, your talent has nothing to do with your ethnicity or where you come from or how you grow up. It has everything to do with your intellect. And you belong wherever you are, with all your Latinidad, all your curves, all your long nails, all your red lipstick, hoops, all the things that make you who you are. And a company is going to see that. And I literally walk into LinkedIn, and I kid you not, I walk in there like I all the place. And I'm like, hola, ¿cómo estás? And I think people see that and realize I can be myself in this space. And I will shout out LinkedIn and say that they're a great company that sees you. And before I go on to the video, because I keep looking at me, I will pass it on further. Yeah. But See, right on time. Right on
I am actually really excited because I think we're going to get to tackle two different sides of how our Latinx impacts us. Both through growing up, I'm not first gen. I'm very fortunate. My mom is a graduate from Stanford University. But I grew up knowing I had an advantage. And for me, it's always kind of been this, how do you use this, like, I'm a more white passing, how do I like find your identity, kind of struggling with the, am I identifying with American culture, like who I am I losing my identity, like who am I? And I think that's a very real question for a lot of people, and I think especially for the community of a lot of students here at San Jose State as well. What became really real to me was how that entered the workforce. And so a few key experiences, starting with an internship that I had, huge Fortune 500 company. I had an internship in social media. My manager at the time, I remember so vividly in my first week, being told, hey, you're an intern, you're at the bottom of the totem pole, right? And just, it's something that kind of, it's like you want to say, this is beyond my culture, who I am, but also I knew for a fact who her interns before they weren't Latinas. And it was really the first time of like being out in the real world and sort of who I existed as a person, kind of being put in this place of like people exerting their power over you. And I had to find the balance from that. And so I kind of, I carved my way. I was one of the highest performing interns on their social space, the social media manager at that point, and worked my way out. Maybe I didn't want to stay there long term. So in the end, they kind of like delayed on giving me an offer. I was like, no, I don't want to work here. Like, I'm gonna go find a new job. And I landed in a data company, another place where it kind of again didn't hit me until I was there, and it was in my first 2 weeks that I've been at this job. I noticed outside on the windows, so it was really not in the room, the line of offices of the executive suite of it's like a software company. All of them like white male, white male, white male across every single leadership position at the company, and I didn't find that, I didn't see myself represented. And I knew at that point, kind of two jobs in, post college experience, where do I fit in? Like, where do I as a woman, as a Latina, see myself? And it wasn't until actually my third company that I was really focused on finding a place that had things like employee resource groups that had a more diverse team, that you start kind of learning of what are those experiences like when you kind of, it's even hard for me today to kind of put into words that the experience is just not fitting in. And then it's still something that I think I'm learning how to navigate, how to really embrace my culture of who I am, even literally to this day. Because for me, it's kind of just been, I know I didn't grow up first gen. How do I, move forward with this and like bring this in part of my career? So to wrap up what I'm saying, I'm very fortunate now in my current role. I actively try to take a bigger piece in our Mezcla, is our employee resource group, helping put together sort of our initiatives. The company as a whole, they don't put that burden on the Latinx people to kind of build their own Latinx Heritage Month content. I'm so fortunate, I'm finally actually now seeing what it is to be at a company that they want to do the work for you. They're don't put the burden on the actual Latino people to figure out how to talk about their culture. And getting to a part of that now is just I'm starting to really find that place of where do I identify, like, how do I grow in this? And continue, connecting to my Latino roots and so on. Kind of the opposite side of the spectrum, which is, everyone's experience is so different.
I definitely heard some common things, but that it really takes time to own, all your power and really feel confident wherever you enter, like, where, depending on like different job positions or different companies, but I really appreciate what y'all said. Next, moving on to the next question, the next final question. Explain their interview process for your current position. What was it like to experience this process, and did you have people who prepared you for it? Were there any surprises?
So I'm notoriously known in my family for quitting and getting another job. I have zero tolerance for BS. If I don't like it, thank you, here's my resignation, and I got another job lined up already. So I think for me, what I've experienced throughout my career is the interviews always look so different. Some of them are super intense, like animal interviewing, and we're gonna do 7 of these, and you gotta do well, and it's gonna be like 48 questions. And the pattern has been, I eat those jobs. I end up having a really difficult time assimilating and feeling good about those jobs. So always go with your gut instinct. And then I have jobs that are like 20 minutes and they're like, great, we will not let your phone get cold. And I get the job. Within the weekend, I get a call and I get the job. I'm like, cool. So I think for me, what really helped is I tend to get kind of socially anxious sometimes, even though I'm a social worker, it still happens. So what I kind of do is like YouTube, like LinkedIn recruiters, and get insight on what they're looking for, because it's changed. I mean, from 10 years ago to 5 years ago to post-COVID, the way you interview what they're looking for, it changes, right? So I typically just do that. I do some like YouTubing. I talk to my colleagues, I talk to friends of, hey, what do you think are some of my strengths? Because I know this is going to be a question. And what are some of my weaknesses? Oh, okay, I have a short temper. Okay, cool, I gotta work on that. So it's sort of getting honest feedback from friends and family before you actually go into interview. Oh, I talk too fast. I get that from my husband all the time. So I gotta make sure I slow down when I'm talking and pause. So I think it's going to look different based on what your major is, but the sort of bottom core of it is still going to be the same type of questions. So just be ready to answer those questions. That's basically all the advice I can give you for that.
So I'll share with you my non-conventional, non-traditional career trajectory. I applied to a lot of internships my 4th year of college. I graduated in 5 and didn't get any of them. Applied to all of them on Handshake. Thought I was the bomb.com. Didn't get any of them. And I'm like, oh man, okay. Well, I failed math, algebra, the business calculus. I failed that the first time. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to use this summer to better myself. And this is not going to stop me from excelling and learning new things. So if you don't get an internship, it's okay. There's so many other opportunities on campus that you can take. You can do your own projects. Now there's like certificates you can do. I mean, there's so much out there. There isn't one way to do it. So I mean, even like from us, take it with a grain of salt that your journey will not look like ours. Yours will be different, and take what you like and leave the rest. But I didn't get an internship, but I retook math, decided I was going to ace it the second time, aced it the second time. I was a host at a restaurant on Santana Row, and I was in student government. So I treated the student government like it was an internship, and Jasmine and I did that together. If you can be in AS, like please do it, be on a committee. That's, well, I'll share my resume. But I did that. I did not get an internship. The following summer, I got an internship. Hallelujah, I was so happy. And then following, when I went through that year of school, they offered me a full-time position, which was really awesome. So I worked at a tech company doing marketing right out of college. I was very happy about that. And got into the corporate world and just kind of realized, there's not a lot of people here like me. And being on campus, I think this campus has so many amazing things. I say always, like, I had the best 5 years of my life, and they were the worst 5 years of my life in certain aspects. But, through the good and the bad and the ugly. But when I graduated, I'm like, oh, where's the fun? Like, where's the spice? Where are all the people that we're meeting? And I just didn't feel like it was where I was meant to be. And so I ended up, and this is, non-related to career, but I started going to the gym. I got a gym membership. I started going to the Silicon Valley Capital Club, which is a couple blocks away, because I had a mentor at San Jose State that went there, and I was like, I'm gonna, network or meet these great people. And then I started a beauty business online. And so those three things, like, I kind of pivoted. And I started to enjoy my life again and have a zeal for life again. And that really helped me. And so then I was like, you know what if I saved a lot during the corporate job that I had. And I said, you know what if I leave this and run my business full time? So I left, and then I started my business, which my parents were like, you're crazy, why would you do this? But I saw a vision for myself. And I think for anybody that's listening, first off, there's a new startup incubator on campus that's for students, alumni, staff, faculty to gain funding. If you have an entrepreneurial idea, you can go there. But growing up, I always had the spirit of entrepreneurship. It's not being a CEO, it's not being a founder, it's not making your own schedule and sleeping in and doing that. I think that's what people think entrepreneurship is. But if you have this, everybody I think has the spirit of entrepreneurship, and it slowly fades. And so I was so excited to then run that business. And then being at the Capital Club, doing networking with a bunch of business owners and a bunch of different people, they kept asking me, how do you do social media? How do you brand? We need to do this for our business. And so this year I started my social media consulting business. And so through everything, I've pivoted and done all different kinds of things. And it's okay if you, like I said, if you don't get the internship, if you don't get the job, if you're not happy with the salary, or you feel like it's just not what you think, you can always pivot, you can always move. So many people have done that during this past 2 years. And, I think that we're coming into a winter again with what's going on, but you can create whatever you want. So don't feel like, okay, I did a call and that person got this job, so I have to do that job to get to that job, or I have to have that experience, or those, whatever it is, those qualifications to do certain things. You really don't. You can create and pave a way for yourself. And I think, again, branding allows you, and marketing yourself allows you to open doors for yourself. You get to curate a narrative of what you want for yourself.
And I have another additional question, Joaquin. I was gonna ask you, what do you look for when interviewing for?
Great question. So what I look for when I'm interviewing candidates, it's really, for me, and I guess what I'll say first of all is I think San Jose State students are kind of the epitome, or kind of the type of candidates that I really love to interview and hire. And the reason why is because when I look for a candidate, it's important that they have the skill sets or kind of the experiences, but it's not as important for me versus what I see in their passion and their drive. So for me, what I think about is, what are the things that they bring versus the things that I can teach them. I can teach someone the job, right? I can teach you how to do SEO marketing, or I can teach you how to do accounting, or I can teach you how to do this stuff. What I can't teach is a person's innate ability to be inquisitive, to be a learner, to have passion, and to really have that drive to want to learn. So for me, that's the number one thing that I look for when I'm interviewing candidates, is someone that has those types of skill set versus the traditional, like, meet the box of these role or these kind of experiences. And that's why when I think about, like, I would prefer a San Jose State student because I know the challenges they've gone through. To be here today, like on the video and in person, and everyone that's here, it's not been easy, right? And someone who has not had it easy, I'd much rather have someone like that has been handed to them everything that they have and don't appreciate what they have and everything that they've gone through to get to where they're at.
Yes, I guess thinking about how everyone here is making a sacrifice to be here, you know, kind of like an opportunity cost. Like, oh, what am I losing for being here? So I like, same as you, I applaud anyone who's in the room as well for being here. And we're gonna transition to Q&A. Does anyone in the room have any questions or through Zoom?
Hi everyone, it was such a pleasure like hearing everyone's experience. My name is Kimberly. I wanted to ask, like a lot of you touched on pivoting. Like, how was you experiencing like interviewing during the pandemic? How did it make it difficult for you? Or was it a little bit easier? And like what helped you in that transition?
Yeah, so like I had mentioned earlier, I'm on my third role. So I was at a job for about 2 years. I knew it was time to go because I was no longer learning, and a rule of thumb is always have to be learning as a combination of both. I kind of reached like my peak of what I wanted to do. The interview process during the pandemic, going into my role after that, was a little unique. They were a company that was, honestly, I should have looked at this flag, like they were a company that was requiring people to go into the office like 3 days a week. But it was that opportunity for the learning. It was a senior position, it was managing the largest budget that I've ever had. And so I wanted to take that opportunity cost. I wanted that experience. And so the process was a little unique in that I actually was able to go and meet with the hiring manager in person. That he was in a pandemic, kind of just like, we were like trying to be as safe as we could, but getting to actually meet her in person to kind of get that culture fit as well, like this is something that I wanted to work with before. But I would say for the role that I'm at right now, part of my network, it was that previous manager, she took me into this next role that I have. But the interview process of meeting people, and actually I can speak to also like I've been hired on my team, and just for me, it's about making the interviews as conversational as possible and like really putting your personality into your answers. Like no one wants to hire someone who's just reading their list of like, hey, like, this is how I answer, like, this is what you're looking for in the role, like, I'm just gonna go through the list. It's those things that are actually what you were also touching on, like the passion, the eagerness, like the just drive to want to like do something like why you want that role. And so I really put that into my interviews, and especially in the pandemic, like that's so important because people don't know who you are in person. Really want to make sure you let that personality shine. So don't be afraid to like walk into these interviews, just be like, yeah, hi, how are you? Like, I want to see that as a hiring manager. Maybe like depending on your industry, it's a little different, but I think at the end of the day, we're all human.
I just add to that. So I completely agree, especially in this environment where a lot of interviews are being done Zoom. You still read from your notes. And don't go look off to your side and look at what you wrote down as you're answering the hiring manager's question. that's a huge red flag. So what I would say is, in interviewing, we talked about this, right? It's a two-way street, right? So you also want to interview the company, which means that you have to show that passion of one, understanding a little bit about the company, and two, is asking people questions so you can actually assess more. Do you want to be there? Do they accept people for their whole self? There's a lot of great companies in the Bay Area that their mantra is bring your whole self. So wherever you are, you bring yourself, true to yourself. But also, if you don't feel that connection or you're not able to ask those questions, it goes a long way to show like your kind of passion and your as a hiring manager. That makes a huge kind of difference. And someone asks those questions, they're meaningful questions, not like the questions you got off the internet. It's like top 10 interview questions to ask your hiring person.
We can tell, but we can tell when it's the top 10, for sure.
So really do your research, do your kind of homework, and really bring passion to the conversation. An interview should be a conversation.
So we have a question, two questions for Erika Said from our online folks. The first question being, where and how did you get your license to be a clinical social worker? And the second question is, what can you do as a social worker in terms of different job opportunities?
These are amazing questions, because people don't know what I do half the time. Oh, good for you. So I went in and got the undergrad, which was the bachelor's degree in social work. Then from there, I did the master's program. Once you graduate, the goal becomes to find a full-time job because you are required to complete, at that point, it was 3,200 supervised hours. So when I say supervised hours, that means you're meeting with a licensed clinical social worker once a week for an hour, and you're talking about your cases, you're talking about interventions that you're doing. And really the beauty of obtaining a social work degree is you can work in different settings. You can work in policy. So if you really are big on making an impact for community, you can definitely become a council member with a degree in social work. You can go into implementing grant proposals. You can go into research. I chose to do counseling in the school settings and then also medical social work. So you burn out from one thing because that is a true thing. You're dealing with, not dealing is a bad word, but you're working with individuals and families that are going through crisis, through loss, through changes in life. And sometimes it does get difficult, and that's when you sort of have to say, I gotta do something else. So you don't want to burn out on what you're doing. So that's the beauty of social work. So after completing, or in between completing the 3,200 hours, you have to take 2 state exams. The first one is the law and ethics exam. That one you can take as you're working towards your hours. The second one is completed after you sign off on your hours. And then you can take that exam and pray to God that you pass it the first time. So if you study, there are, I used a system called therapist development that kind of walks you through what type of questions you're going to have, what to expect from the test. The final exam is a 4-hour exam in person, and luckily I passed it. So now with being a licensed clinical social worker, my ultimate goal was to do private practice. So now I can diagnose you with a mental health disorder, and I can see you one-on-one from therapy. So that was the ultimate goal of me becoming licensed. So on top of working for Kaiser as a therapist, I have also started to do video psychotherapy with patients, with my own patients, not from Kaiser, but from another population. And the opportunity to work as a school therapist came up, so that's where I'm in transition. So I went from being at after my master's working at Valley Medical for 4 years, I worked maternal fetal medicine, oncology, after I was in call, peritoneal dialysis, as a social worker, to then being at Kaiser as an adult psychiatric therapist, and then now as a school therapist. So it's lovely to be a social worker. You get to do what you want to do and change different hats. So I highly encourage everybody. We have one of the best social work programs here at San Jose State. It's so good that part of the requirement for the licensing is you have to complete certain courses. There's some trainings you have to do. It's about 6 or 7 of them. And because San Jose State was accredited to be a really good social work program, I didn't have to take any of those. So I skipped that and just went straight to taking the exam. So that's kind of in a nutshell.
You did your master's here?
I did both programs here. I did. So do them here.
Sorry, just to make fun, just because I'm a part of a nonprofit that does social services. So there's a lot of nonprofit organizations, Alamar Council Center being one of them,
Yeah.
and others.
There,
Yeah, so there's a lot of opportunities, and I know they have a lot of internships and events that will.
I did my undergrad at Starlight Behavioral Health, which is a community-based organization like Allen Rock, and I got to work with at-risk youth. So yeah, definitely you can do that for a while. I worked with kids that were on probation, AWOL, high risk, foster, group home. Anything under the sun that has to do with abuse. We worked with social services. I have friends that work CPS emergency, continuation. I have friends that work at the VA office as a counselor there. Others that have one that's transitioning to become a manager or supervisor for the LGBTQ transgender office, which is a really cool opportunity. So you can do a lot with a social work degree. And the last question, and then we're going to move into our lightning round. This one's for you, Latinx, which is, what inspired you to create your podcast and how did you get it started?
So I started my podcast in the pandemic, and it was because I am a Honduran woman who grew up in San Diego around a lot of Mexican culture, and I felt like a lot of my life was educating my Mexican friends. I'm like, no, we don't say tú, we say vos. And it was a lot of feelings where I felt like I didn't sometimes belong in my own community because I wasn't Mexican, I wasn't Chicana, I was Hondureña, I was from Central America. And there is a big difference in our food. I mean, y'all like spicy, I love plátano, and like that's my culture. And I feel like I started it for 3 different reasons. One, because I craved representation of La Comunidad Latina, what we really look like, what we really are, because we don't all look the same, sound the same, come from the same places. I wanted to represent the Asian Latino experience, the Afro Latino experience, the Indigenous Latino experience. I wanted to represent what Latinidad looks like because we are so beautiful, so diverse, and I wanted to educate not just outside of our community, but our own communities on what Latinidad is, what it looks like. And so that was one of the reasons. The second reason is because I finally, in my 20s, sat down with my parents and I asked them, like, papi, contame de tu historia, contame de vos. I've never asked my parents their story. They were always too tired. They were always working late. I never had a chance to have a little café with them. And then when I was in my 20s, I finally had moments to sit down with them, and it's been the most beautiful healing journey that I've been on of understanding where my parents from, understanding how their sacrifice, their story, their struggle is so rooted in who I am. And that's what makes me first generation. And so I wanted to represent this immigrant first generation story of us caring so much of our parents, of where we come from, and I wanted to represent the struggles that sometimes that can be in navigating this world, and also the blessings that it can bring in navigating this world. And so I wanted to just highlight where we come from, the excellence where we come from, and also last thing, I wanted to create a vulnerable space for our community. How many of y'all have vulnerable conversations with your family? How many of y'all cry with your family? It doesn't happen very often. And for me, I was always the crybaby in the family, and I realized it was me therapy. It was because I wanted to feel connected, I wanted to feel seen. And I craved moments like that with my family, and I didn't always have it. And I talked about that moment in 2008 when we were homeless for 8 months, 6 to 8 months. We never talked about it. And it wasn't until my podcast episode with my brothers, with my brothers, and 4 of them, 4 or 3 guys in the episode, and it's called the Ceremony Gun on. We talk about that moment, and that was 10 years past. And to see how much vulnerability came out of my brothers, it just meant that there was so much for me to talk about. And so I wanted to create a space for our story told by us, for us, space for us to be vulnerable, space for us to talk about the Latinx society, the wars, the do, and also a place for us to celebrate the struggles and being that path. So I started as a passion. I started because I reached out to someone and I was like, hey, do you know this podcast world? Because I don't know. And he's like, oh yeah, like I actually produce a few podcasts. And so I started with just not knowing a thing. I first gen the heck out of it. And I just started creating. And it led from a 15-minute episode of my story talking about who I am, where I come from, and then it turned into 70+ episodes. It turned into the Kumba interview. It turned into a whole business, and now I don't want to brag about it, but now I made more business, more money off of my podcast. I've been able to monetize it into a whole business on its own. I never in a million years thought it was going to be that, and so get inspiration for y'all. Like, just do it, just risk it, just go for it. I'm a dreamer. I have big ideas, and I know I can't execute them all the time, but the ones that I do, like my podcast, it's brought so much more blessing. So fill your cup first, fill your heart, and you'll realize that there's so many other people who are doing that too. So.
All right, thank you so much for sharing. Definitely, I'm sure a couple tears. Because, yeah, like it's especially kind of like it's a lot. It takes a lot of vulnerability, a lot of hurt, and like even starting conversations personally, it's really hard, and so you have to be really strong to do that. So I appreciate it, and I will be listening to the podcast. But yeah, thank you so much. I definitely hope, students said that you leave with everything with a grain of salt, but really take what what you heard, and yeah. Elaine?
Thank you all for being here. I actually really wanted to come, and I was like, oh my god, I'm so excited because I don't know what the heck I'm doing right now. But it's so nice to know that you guys made it out here, especially being like a freshman. It's hard, but I'm gonna say that with pride. And thank you all for being here. I appreciate like you guys asking me questions.
Oh. So we're gonna do lightning round. So we're gonna give everyone about 30 seconds or a minute to challenge. To answer this last question. All right. So the question is 30 seconds to a minute. What advice would you give to current HAC students as they explore their career paths?
So I think the biggest thing that there's gonna be a lot of pressure right now. You're gonna feel a lot of pressure coming from family, from expectations that you're now a graduate. Take your time. Take your time. Don't get that tunnel vision and follow your gut instinct. I know that there's beauty in being first generation, but there's also a lot of trauma involved. So with that, just really, really do not allow your career path to define now who you are. That was my mistake. I am a social worker. This is all I am. And you are more than that. So always remember that you're more than just that career path. No one can take away those diplomas. Those are yours forever, wherever you go. But just be kind to yourself as you sort of navigate this new chapter in your life.
I want to like plus one what Sarai said, because the let me tell you, I thought I was hot shit going on campus. I was orientation leader, I was part of AS, I was this, I was that, and I was like, oh, there's no way that no one's gonna hire me, like, I got this. And I was very humbled really quick, and I'll tell you because I thought my title defined who I was. And it wasn't until I started to love who I was that I've entered into so many spaces. Now I'm in a space of alignment in my career and my entrepreneurial journey. And I just tell you that because it's really hard to go into the world and there's no one out there. Like San Jose State provided so much for me as a first generation kid, but the workplace did not. There was nothing else outside there that held space for me. And I felt like I had to learn how to do that for myself, and probably why I created my podcast, because I create that space for other people as well. And so that's what I would give you. Just give yourself a lot of grace. One, leave space to dream. I'm a big dreamer. I never fit into a box. I went into my first internship and I was like, oh, this. I went into my second job and I'm like, I don't do this forever. Same thing. I'm notorious for leaving without having a job lined up. And I just want to tell you, leave space to dream. I know, I feel it, all the pressures that we have as first generation kids, and I look after my parents, it's a big pressure that I always think about, and it deters every decision that I make. But leave space to dream, because I never knew I could do a podcast. I did it, I dreamed of it, I did it, and it's turned into something so beautiful. And I think that's been the biggest thing that I wish to tell myself. It's okay, we don't get podcast. It's okay, we want to PR to comms and now events, like your girl has dreams, your girl has done everything different, and I feel like that's who I am. I've never been the boss, I never will, and I will continue to be that, right? And so it's okay if you don't fit into certain behavior laws. It's okay if you don't know what this next step is. Where you start building relationships after direction.
I would say fail as much as you can, get as involved as possible on campus, and don't just attend things, but if you can, if you're able to, take on as many leadership roles as you can. I think that's really what I attribute to getting the internship, getting the jobs, all the things, is that I was in a bunch of different organizations, I took on roles, and I don't even think I really was that great. I thought it was, I was doing great, but looking back, I learned to fail a lot. And so the more you can mess up, the better you're gonna get. Don't be scared of failing and looking like a beginner or looking dumb in front of other people. People are probably looking at you and thinking you're so brave, and they're probably admiring you and you have no idea. So do as many things as you possibly can within your bandwidth without burning yourself out. And yeah, do all those, start the projects, do all the things, do as many things as you possibly can, and half of them don't work, or you don't make money, or whatever happens, that's okay, just
And so I think the advice I give is probably very similar, is find your passion, take those risks. One of the feedback that I got, or one of the advice I got early in my career, I had an interview where I sat down and I simple one-on-one CFO early in my career. To my surprise, he accepted it. But the feedback he gave me, or the advice he gave me, was like, your career is a journey. So your career will go up, forward, and advance up. It'll go sideways, it'll go backwards. But with each of those opportunities, each of those steps, you're gonna learn something. It's okay to fail. You're gonna learn from that failure, and you're gonna move on, right? You're gonna intrinsically understand, okay, if I failed at something, why did I fail? Was it because the people weren't right that I was working with? Is it that I have to go back, I failed a class, I have to go and maybe retake to the professor or the learning style? But the advice is, it's a journey. Find your passion, find what makes you happy, and don't be scared to fail, and take advantage of every opportunity.
I love you, no answer. Obviously, I think you should work with all of it. For me, my best advice is to embrace an always learning mindset. I think that regardless of where you are, whether you're in school, out of school, keeping that being open to just always learning and trying new things and being curious about that, I think always carries you forward, whether that's to dream more, whether that's to try different things, like embracing the mindset that you're never done learning and that you always want to continue making the space for that, I think, is what I lean into the most. So.
Please help me in thanking our panelists for sharing their impact, their expertise, their passion, their inspiration, all of us here tonight and those of us that are joining us online. I do want to ask Bella very quickly. This is also an event that was co-sponsored by the Latino Alumni Network, which is for those of you that are going to be graduating, hopefully maybe this semester or next semester, to start thinking about joining. So Bella, if you could share a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm very excited here to be representing the Latino Alumni Network Board of Directors. First of all, if you're not following us on our socials or on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, SJSU_LAN for the Student Alumni Network. That was one of the early organizations post my graduation. I was just kind of like still craving that networking, craving that connection with different folks, different people that could be my mentors. I was able to join, and I probably was one of the youngest on the board. You know, it's an opportunity that recent grads don't realize is there. Take advantage of those opportunities, the people that want to help you. So one, yeah, there's an open call right now for board of directors, and who are graduating soon. Please go check out, apply. We're always, you know, we're looking to grow. But then the second piece, I think, for all the students out here is the mission of the Latino Alumni Network is to continue growing our scholarship fund for Latino students. And so definitely please, all during scholarship season, look for the LAN scholarship, and also as you are graduating, you know, our mission really is to give back to the Latino student community here at San Jose State. So really excited about that.
Thank you so much, Bella. And also please help me thank Belen and Alex for being our student for this evening. They did a wonderful job. This event was recorded, so we will be posting it to our central website. So if any folks, their friends weren't able to make it, you want them to check out this great opportunity they probably do not want to miss, but they had class because they have to work. They can watch the recording at a later time. So thank you again, everyone, for being here, and wishing you a wonderful evening. Gracias, everybody.